Welcome back, everybody. We got a great one planned for you today. We're going to hear about Cardano. They're aiming high, and we're talking about billions, not millions. Elon Musk and Tesla hint that Bitcoin may be out of favor. A former Ripple employee, very important figure, talks about what he sees here of lately from Congress and the cyber attacks in the pipeline and what it may mean for all of us. And then we're going to talk about Diem's return. It goes hand in hand. And we're going back to some remarks from Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larson that feel very relevant for where we are today. Let's go ahead and talk about it. XRP Ledger is the new framework for the digital asset space. I really do believe it. Let's go ahead and talk about evidence that may show how real it could actually be. Let's roll that beautiful intro.
This is Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Subscribe for new content notifications. Now, here's Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. You can follow me on Twitter at BackupBradleyAbove and everything that we're talking about here today. Money's still falling out of the market this morning, just about $2 trillion flat for the crypto market cap collectively. We know we've seen $2.5 trillion plus for a high for the cryptocurrency space. Right now, Bitcoin is down to $42,000 plus, and it is off more than 25.93% on the 7-day. Looking for support. That's what they're looking for. Ethereum now down to 3,200 plus. It's off by 10% today, and it's off by more than 22% on the 7-day, as well as almost 10% off on the 24-hour for Bitcoin. Cardano down almost 9.44% right now on the 24-hour, and 15.83% up on the 7-day. Let's go to rate to XRP. $1.50 right now. We're up 1.41% on the 24-hour and still off more than 2% on the 7-day. So let's look at the ranging very quickly here. You know, there are quite a few analysts that are saying where we are ranging right now is not a bad area. Let's see if we're still continuing there. So we are at 150 here, and we've been ranging to 133 on the low side. Well, we've gotten from Crypto Wizard and others that above 131 is a great place for XRP to be to challenge a new all-time high. Now, we do have some areas of resistance that XRP has to break through, but the point being is that XRP is on the launch pad. Anything is possible, ladies and gentlemen. Head on a swivel for that. All right, now let's go ahead and take a look at this. This is a public service announcement here. Ladies and gentlemen, please be very, very careful of any text scams, email scams, whether they claim to be an exchange or whether they claim to be your hardware wallet, whatever it is. Always assume when you receive something, when it's dealing with cryptocurrency or finances in general, assume that it is fraudulent first. And if you think there is legitimacy to it, start your own contact thread directly with that particular company or exchange. That's the best way to handle that. So everybody stay safe out there. I actually have a very close family member that is dealing with identity theft, and they've gotten their XRP and their crypto stolen. And I hope they get it back. We're going to have to see what happens there. Cardano targeting billions, not millions of users, says Charles Hoskinson. And he has an aggressive agenda for Cardano. And it is time for them to really spread their wings and fly. I can remember meeting Charles Hoskinson 2019 out in Vegas. And by the way, I have extremely good news coming to you for Kryptonaires the movie. Hang in there. I think tomorrow might be a special day. We shall see. So at any rate, this is pretty incredible because Charles Hoskinson has been in the development phase for quite a long time. And obviously there's a lot to do. It's always ongoing with every network and protocol. But Charles is obviously starting to step out here, and he has been one heck of a figure during the time of the lawsuit with Ripple and SEC as well. So I'm excited about what Charles is doing with Cardano, I got to say. So I'm interested to see them grow into the millions of billions of users. Looking here, this is Clinton Donnelly reminding all of us that if you're filing an extension, it's a good idea to create a rough draft of your crypto tax return to establish whether you will owe money or need to receive a tax refund from the IRS. I don't know how to do any of that. So Clinton Donnelly's the guy to rely on for that. So you can go to cryptotaxaudit.com. It's not too late. Become a member and get the help that you need. Here we see a back and forth very quickly because I have some important stuff for you guys to take a look at about I believe that the XRP ledger is going to become a part of the framework of this entire digital asset space. I have believed that from day one, and I think we're going to look at some things that really lean into the idea of entertaining that notion. And here we see just really quickly here, it sets the tone for a narrative. Mr. Whale put out Bitcoiners are going to slap themselves next quarter when they find out Tesla dumped the rest of their Bitcoin holdings. With the amount of hate Elon Musk is getting, I wouldn't blame him. Elon says, indeed. And then he goes on to share the clip for somebody who didn't know what it was because he was blocked. This is Elon Musk saying that, he's hinting here that Bitcoin is out of favor. This narrative is pretty interesting, knowing that this current administration and an international agenda to have a greener climate, which is not a horrible thing at all, is really in play here, right? So this week in Congress, this is Ron Hammond. We'll get to this in a second if you're new. Last week was rough for the industry on a number of fronts. However, the most immediate issues that will invoke Congress are the Colonial Pipeline hack and Libra's Diem return. Quick thread below for details. Now, just quickly, I want to go through this with you, and I want to say this. The cyber attack, and I said this about the Diem coin. I've said this about the Colonial Pipeline, and really these things have become narratives. There's one other thing too, GameStop. Right? So GameStop, to deal with the market manipulation of the old system and how it doesn't really work in the manner that it needs to. You have Diem, which addresses cryptocurrency. You have the cybersecurity of the Colonial Pipeline, right? And the fact that this infrastructure from every part of the planet and all the different areas that we've just covered, from investments to pipelines to money itself, all of it needs to be updated to a new system that is immutable, right? Whether they be private ledgers built on top of protocols or what have you. And that, to me, is the highest sign that we've got some big things coming for Congress, because we also know that they've been talking to other people. We'll get to that in a second. But real quick, I want to remind people that Ron Hammond is very important things to remember about him is that he used to work at Ripple. Back in 2019, he was hired to work at Ripple, and he's also the person who crafted the Token Taxonomy Act, which would be nice to have Congress take that and put it through. But he also brought up Diem. And while we're here at Diem, I want to remind people that may or may not know that Diem has partnered with Silvergate Bank. Silvergate Bank is going to hold the reserves for the Diem dollar stablecoin. That is a very, very important job. Well, I want to also remind you that at the same time this is happening, the Diem project has left Switzerland and moved to the United States to do this. And now this is happening all at the same time that we're seeing 5 pilot tests happen with the US dollar at the same exact time. We see Facebook's dollar, stablecoin dollar, move back to the United States at the same time that the pilots begin for the digital dollar. I find this to be incredible. I also find it incredible to know that Barry Silbert from DCG, Digital Currency Group, actually bought into Silvergate, and years ago this happened, 2018. I also want you to know that Barry Silbert is an investor from Digital Currency Group into these companies like Brave Software, Coinbase, Ledger, and Ripple. It's all tied together here. It's all tied together. And then a few weeks ago in April, we heard what from Chris Larson? Chris Larson said we need to move away. Bitcoin needs to move away from its core proof of work technology to remain dominant. Cryptocurrency is what the Ripple co-founder said here. And he goes on through this to say that basically the technology POW, proof of work, used in the mining process, said it should instead be other methods such as proof of stake, federated consensus, or another technology that is yet to be developed. Well, I have said this on the channel for a long, long time, is that I believe everything runs on the ledger. And this could be leaning into that notion, is that because of the proof of work, they may come up with some way to either stake your Bitcoin, maybe on the ledger or with Flare networks at some point. We already know you can do it on Flare Finance with Litecoin and Dogecoin, which are forks of Bitcoin, right? So this gets interesting because here it is laid out here, right? And then we know too that this would work beautifully also if a lot of these assets in the market end up becoming digital asset securities, according to Gary Gensler. We know that Joseph Grunfest, who was a former SEC chair, and I think he's still at Stanford. I think it is Stanford. But at any rate, we know that he personally can explain to you how Bitcoin can be a security. If you're buying a soda or a haircut with it, no, that's a transaction of money and exchange of value, right? But the reality is that if you're holding it and buying it at 40,000, hoping someday it'll be 50, 60, 80, 100,000, then what you're really doing is trying to make a profit on the expectation of others. Who are the others? Well, the miners of the Bitcoin network, the ones processing transactions on the network, they have to continue to service the network in order for you to make that hopeful gain one day, right? And that is profiting off of others. So I could see how they could come up with calling something like Bitcoin a security ultimately at the end of the day. And then you never have to worry about it being challenging the rest of the government dollars of the world, right? We already know that it's set up here to be able to do F assets off of these assets, which shows to me that you could stake these things, right? Doesn't mean they have to be securities, but this lays out nicely for a Gary Gensler SEC in my mind. Now, all right, so now looking here, we know that of the recent week, at the same time that we have highlighted that we have GameStop, we have the pipeline, cybersecurity, Diem coming back to the U.S. during the same time that these 5 pilots are going on for the digital dollar. You couldn't convince me that at least somehow Diem isn't a part of that. With 2.7 billion users, by the way, right? So then Mr. Coinbase, Brian Armstrong here, spends the last week in Congress or in D.C. meeting with people of Congress and federal agencies. I believe we're seeing Congress coming up with what's going to happen. And this won't be left up to the market regulators, as it should not be. There should be some kind of legislation passed, and then the market regulator craft what they do off of that framework. And then coming here, we're reminded it is about the protocol from Glenn Hutchins, who also is an early investor in things like Ripple, And it's massive because this makes sense, because if everything is about the protocol and having XRP ledgers serve as a protocol for the entire digital asset class, at some point transacting across it or sitting on it in some manner or some way, and maybe even the Stellar network too, because they are brother and sister, right? I don't know, but these things feel like we're going more that way than not these days. And when I think about when Glenn Hutchins says the value is in the protocol and the price of the tokens is a distraction and in fact uninformative, it begins to make sense to me. We're going to look at some more information about why. 1 second.
But the most important piece, which is one that people aren't focusing on, is the protocol. The underlying protocol by which we agree to conduct these transactions. So you use a series of protocols every day and you don't even think about them. You don't think about the internet protocol, you don't think about the simple mail technology protocol, you don't think about the file transfer protocol, you don't think about the high text translation protocol. I can go through them, right? You just make use of the technology and the protocols make it work. The people who really understand what's going on with digital currencies understand that putting these protocols in place, the blockchain protocol, the Ethereum protocol, the the Ripple protocol, and then enabling those protocols to cause transactions to occur. And then those transactions can be defined very broadly as not just moving things of value, but anything that's got an information content, is extraordinarily transformative. The focus on the value of the token is distracting and uninformative.
There you go. I mean, the guy just says it better than anybody. And when you think about that, the value is in the protocol, not worrying of the price of the token. That will reflect itself once all of these different entities that join the protocol, because the protocol should have the interoperability inclusiveness factor to that, then that's how you get to a place here where Ripple pilots a private ledger for central banks, right? I mean, the question I'm really asking here is how much longer before the space flips from speculative market to use case utility being the defining measure for what assets live and what assets die. And whether it's Bitcoin or something else, you should start asking yourself what your asset can do, what problem it can solve, right? Because if it can't, you better ask yourself why you're holding it, right? So here we go here really quickly. This is Brad Garlinghouse himself back in November of 2020 telling us exactly that central banks are working off of the XRP ledger.
I mean, certainly we do know of central banks looking at the XRP ledger as open source technology to issue stablecoins using the XRP ledger.
So, does it feel silly for me to ask the question, what if Congress dedicates a certain protocol like the XRP ledger or Stellar Network, right? XLM, what if these protocols were to be adopted by Congress, or Congress lay out the framework that would allow the Treasury to adopt these protocols for these things? Well, I mean, we already know that the central banks of the world think that the XRP ledger is good enough to build a private ledger on top of it. Do I feel like I'm in left field now? Well, let's keep listening.
Absolutely. So at its core, Ripple has been all about enabling what we call an internet of value. Let's make all of these different networks that really don't talk to each other interoperable. We've all had the experience where, when you ask a friend, you say, hey, I need to pay you money. Are you on Venmo? Are you on PayPal? Or outside the United States, maybe Alipay or PayU.
And you get the idea. The point is about the interoperability. This is a promo where he's talking about PayID, but it's about Ripple's main objective, even through PayID, is to open up the infrastructure and interoperability for anyone or any company to be able to be inclusive into this new financial world. Keep listening. I want you to hear this.
Ripple took a contrarian view pretty early in our evolution and said, look, if you want to really revolutionize the way payments work, if you really want to revolutionize the way transactions work in this regard, it's not going to happen by everybody giving up their existing infrastructure and just switching to something new. As much as I am actually a bull on Bitcoin, the Bitcoin blockchain there's not going to be one ledger to rule them all. Ripple invented a series of technologies built upon the XRP ledger that allows institutions, banks, and even in some cases governments to take advantage of these technologies and dramatically accelerate the nature of transactions.
He's fully into talking points now.
Look, I'm trying to explain. The thing I'm getting to is simply the idea that the people who say that Ripple is somehow, your word, the devil, it's because we're partnering with the man.
Did you hear that? It's because we're partnering with the man. And I can't for a second believe that the SEC doesn't know it. Because I believe they do know it. And I believe that's why they waited 7 or 8 years before they decided to sue him. And I also believe that they know one of the most important things that does not get talked about on here, or it does on this channel, but it doesn't get talked about inside of this case, is the other real honest truth. And it's line 82, where Ripple did undertake to achieve its goal of widespread distribution XRP by giving non-cash consideration for labor and market making services. In other words, you know our protocol is interoperable. You know our protocol is inclusive. If you do the work on your side of your legacy systems and you choose to bring your daily volume, you could get this much XRP in return to incentivize your network. This is not harmful. This is not nefarious. This is a company doing business, right? And they achieved it. And that's why they're suing Ripple instead of someone like Dogecoin. Because they've actually achieved this. That's what we're talking about here. Because it is just as Brad Garlinghouse said, and Thomas Jefferson, a revolution comes from within, not without. That's going to do it for me. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe, leave a comment below, share with somebody you know. XRP Ledger is the new framework for the digital asset space. Come on in. Yeah. And check out all the links in the description box and the comment section, and I will catch all of you on the next one.